Hello and welcome to the Most Relaxed TT podcast, the podcast where we talk to one person from the world of the TT to discuss their lives, their journeys, and their ambitions with the greatest motorsporting event. And welcome to my new studio, and welcome back, the one, the only, Steve Plater. Steve, I'm glad you're back.
What an intro.
Are you happy to be back?
Well, yes and no.
Oh, go on.
It's great to be back. Obviously, working with all you woolly chins.
Mm-hmm.
However, the studio, have you had McGuinness in here?
What, with the brickwork?
I'm just looking at the brickwork, yeah.
I think it's
5 out of 10.
Yeah, I did it myself. What about this wood panelling at the back?
Actually, I quite like it.
Yeah?
Quite like it. I'd like to sit up properly and pay attention.
No, I'm not. This is the new format, much more relaxed. Where have you been? What have you been up to?
Been busy doing the usual things. Obviously, I've missed an awful lot. The ones you recorded at the Manx, but no, good to be back. Actually, I haven't listened to any.
Well, there's
that
no
you've
point
been doing while I've
asking
been away.
which one was your favourite then, is there?
No, far from it, no.
Oh,
I was feeling left out.
If you want to know, from me, Cam Donald's, that was my favourite.
Was it?
Yeah, phenomenal. I like that man. Is that it? Let's... It's like he's never been away. Steve, let's talk about our guest that's coming on from Cam Donald, old school, to the new school, Ryan Cringle.
Yep. Tough year for him last year, 23 at the TT as a newcomer.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, lots of things went wrong, but I'm sure he's going to tell us all, and I'm kind of half surprised he's coming back for 2024.
I know, after all those troubles. Phenomenally fast kid, though. When I first saw him at TT 2023, I'll be honest, obviously Jamie, his brother, had started the year before. So I was like, this youngster is trying to follow in his brother's footsteps. And Jamie had a really good year. I wasn't expecting Ryan to, I don't want to say dominate his brother, but he kind of surpassed him relatively quickly, didn't he?
Yeah, of course. I mean, there's always going to be a bit of needle anyway,
Yeah.
a bit of competition in the family. But, he's a man of many talents, and I'm looking forward to listening just to see his output.
What does that mean, his output? All right, Steve. I don't know what it means by his output, but let's see what his output is. Come and join me on this sofa, and we'll get Ryan in. Ryan Cringle, born in 1993, 6 TT starts, 5 TT finishes, and he is the 5th fastest TT newcomer behind the likes of Peter Hickman, Davey Todd, Josh Brooks, and Glenn Irwin, to name all 4 of the people that are in front of him. He's got a fastest lap of 120.096, and this man is a full-time grounds worker, construction extraordinaire. Ryan Cringle, welcome to the podcast. Welcome to the new studio as well. You're the first guest in this brand new studio. Do you like it? I decorated it myself.
Yeah, it's good. I'm
Yeah?
liking it.
Yeah.
You're in the building game. What about the brickwork behind you?
Solid, that, innit? That's not falling down anytime soon.
You've been back on the trial, have you, Steve?
A Brook Bond, that one, mate.
It's nice. Well done, Steve. Yeah. Hey, Ryan, quick question before we get into the main question. Do you listen to the TT podcast? Have you listened to it?
I do. So recently I've been doing a lot of cycling at home on Swift, and I've been listening to the podcast each week they come out, and if I can't wait, I go into TT Plus and put the next one on.
Ooh,
I've had just with Barty and who was the latest one? We just
McCallan.
No, the one before.
Oh, Cam.
Yes,
Donald.
Cameron. Yeah, I really, obviously, I grew up watching him and took an interest to his one. Yeah.
Would you say that's your favourite?
Don't know. Yeah,
Tread
I like
carefully.
Yeah,
don't
I
get
like the
Steve Wood in
stories
that.
and how hard he pushed as a newcomer
Yeah.
everywhere he went and took the risk and paid off for him. I mean, obviously he'd done really well.
Yeah. He was. Yeah, it's a shame you weren't there for that one, Steve, because that was a good one. That
Don't start.
Sorry. Anyway, past is new. Is that the right saying? Past is
Feels like
new?
my first time in the studio.
It's weird, isn't it? Anyway, let's get on with this podcast and our guest, Ryan Cringle. Ryan, if you've heard the podcast, you'll know that we start the podcast with the same question to riders, team managers, people that stand at the side of the road and watch. And it's happened to you on 6 occasions now, so you're pretty new to this. So it'll be quite a visceral experience, I dare say, for you. But rolling through no man's land, you get that approach where your team and your mechanics all kind of wave you off. You roll through to the arch. You get the starter's hand grasping on your shoulder. What's going through your mind at that point, before that flag drops, before you get that tap on the shoulder?
Honestly, once you go through no man's land, as they say, there's nothing going through your head anymore. It's just what's in front of you, and you're getting ready to go. And then for me, as Steve will remember this, the old bridge that used to go across to the cemetery that's no longer there. I can still visualise that. And when the rider in front was getting towards there, I knew it was near enough time for me to go. So that's when I started picking up the revs and get ready to go.
Was there a bridge there?
Yeah, back in the day, used to have the red lights on for the end
Yeah.
of practice to guard you back in.
What was it like?
Right.
Obviously, it was your first time there last year. 23. What was it like for your first start?
Yeah, it's alright.
Was you a bag of nerves? Were you not knowing what to expect, or was it just kind of, or was you? Because obviously you're a local, you roughly know where you're going.
Yeah, so as
Should
far
hope
as
so.
track-wise, going back years, I wanted to go and do the Manx, and my dad always said, just hold back, and I did, and then I didn't feel the time's right to come and do it, and I always said, if the time's right, I'll come, and if I don't, I won't, and don't know, I watched my brother set off the year before as a newcomer, and then the worst thing that happened last year for me was me and Jamie qualified on the same time, so unfortunately our first race was the Supersport race, and Jamie was rolling out in front of me, and although I loved being on track together with him, I just didn't want to be on track with him at all, and it's both races, and I caught him in Ramsey, so it was quite weird, but I could come up onto the Crankavody in both races, I could just see him peeling off, it was nice to know, you'd see him, it was good.
You didn't want to go off behind him because you're scared you couldn't keep up? Or?
Yeah.
How competitive is it between the two of you?
He's so laid back. He just, he's got fire, and it's weird because one day he'll have so much fire and determination to beat anyone, and he can do it, and then the next day he's just so laid back. You never know what you're going to get with him. So, yeah, we all obviously I want to beat him, and he wants to beat me, but it's not too competitive between us. As long as we're both safe, we're happy.
Let's rewind now, because although you're a local lad to the island, the TT wasn't, and I think we spoke about this at TT23 when we sat down. It wasn't really on your horizon. Motocross was your sport, was your passion, was your love. So take us back to those first days in motocross. How did you get started? Why did you get started? Was it something that you were always going to pursue, or?
Yeah, so it's always been a family thing. Like, my dad grew up going through different sports like I have now, and something I enjoyed. I went to British as a kid on motocross and
Did all right as well, didn't you?
Yeah, it's going all right. And then, I don't know, things like, we got, small weight 85 days, we 10, 12, I don't know, and just started to phase out, and I just started doing local stuff. And then, fortunately, my cousin done that triple challenge the first year it came around, and that ran alongside the Aprilia, so my dad just said, throw a bike in if you want to have a go. And I went and had a go at that, and honestly, I was no cop at it at all, and because I was that bad, I just threw that back in the corner and went back to my motocross. And then I was fortunate enough in 2013, I wanted to come back and have another go at road racing, and thought the time was right, and somebody put a Kawasaki big bike under me, which had a Superbike engine, maybe not the right thing at the time, but it was what I was offered to go and race, and I took it took it. So we had a good year that year, to be fair, and going forward, I just thought this is it, and unfortunately that deal broke apart at the end of that year due to finances, like a lot of things, and I scratched again for the next couple of years, but here we are today. We kept the ball rolling.
All right, but let's go back to that first time on that. So it would have been an Aprilia RS125.
Yeah.
You would have come from motocross where you've been riding two-strokes, so two-strokes weren't alien to you,
No.
I guess. Riding on the road and competing on the road must have been completely different. Wheels staying in line, plenty of grip, plenty of traction. You said you kind of you weren't very good, but how crap was not very good? Were you at the back of the grid? Were you struggling to qualify? Could you not get a grip on the bike? What was it?
No, it's like 20 to 30s and stuff, and
Right.
I was giving my dad would give me incentives of some money if I went a bit quicker. You get this and get that, and as they do, but it honestly just did not click with me at all. And no matter like how much I felt like I was pushing it a bit, but I was just nothing was clicking, nothing was coming to me. So I only spent a year at it, and probably didn't take it serious enough at the time. I don't know. And
were you enjoying it or not?
yeah, I enjoyed it, but yeah, it's hard to enjoy riding around 20th, isn't it? So, and there's other lads who I'm friends with who done the same jump at the same time, and they were battling for the win, and it didn't hurt me, but it's just like there's not much going on for me. And I still had my motocross bike in them years as well, and I go back home, do local motocross, and towards the front again, I get a better buzz out of it. So
Yeah.
at that point, I just thought going away from it again.
And is there any thoughts at that point, like most kids who take up motorbiking, I want to go MotoGP, I want to be world motocross champion or supercross champion or anything like that? Or were you just enjoying it?
No, nothing like that. I've always been very competitive. I still am very competitive, but I'm very grounded as well. And, you know, I know what it takes to go and do that kind of thing. And that, you know, I don't think I'll ever achieve that. And I didn't think I'd come to the TT either in them days. So I'm happy with what I've done. And maybe, yeah, I could have, like, I've got friends around me who've gone on to world stages and stuff, but I didn't pursue it, is basically what happened.
Is that a good thing or a bad thing to be grounded? Because
to be honest, it must be fairly good, because my younger days, my dad grounded me that flipping much. I didn't turn out that bad.
I think no. I think there's a completely different meaning behind it. You were never not grounded, I bet, as a kid. I bet you were an absolute nightmare as a kid.
Get out.
I bet you were.
No.
I bet you were.
No, I was a good boy.
But what I'm saying is, like, when you're kids, you have these massive aspirations of these dreams that are so grandiose that you need that to kind of press on. And I wonder if you were like, I want to be motocross world champion.
Yeah, no, I had nothing like
Would you
that.
have that so much delusion that you were that good that you could get through and progress?
No, but like even back to a few years ago, like I really struggle with my ability. I don't think I can ride a bike to maybe the ability I can. Like,
Yeah.
I remember I've only been to Spain testing once, and I went out and it was only in track day. I can't remember who it was with now, but we turned up and I was like, oh, I'm in the advanced group here, you know, I'm well out of my depth, and you know, you go out there and you're one of the quickest. It's like, well, right, okay, but I worry too much about things and I just need to get on with it.
Well, that's it, yeah. Is it fifth quickest TT newcomer?
Yeah.
Behind, let's go through them. Hickey, Davey Todd, Josh Brooks, who's the other? Glenn Irwin.
Yeah.
And then you. And yet you're going, oh, yeah, I don't think I'm good enough for this.
Don't know. Yeah, I don't know when it's coming in. The team's like, oh, you've just done that, and I was like, all right, okay. Just it is what it is, you know. Just I don't get hooked up on stuff.
Yeah.
You know, if you're not winning, you know, well, you are happy, but you're not.
It's tough in this game, though, isn't it?
You mentioned your cousin racing the Triumphs earlier. Who's your cousin?
Mark Kringle.
Now, is that it? The three of you in your family circle, or any others that race or ride? So it's quite a family thing.
No, yeah, my cousin. I've got another cousin, Kyle. He races as well. He's just recently gone to tarmac as well now, so God knows where he'll end up. But again, he's another talent on a bike as well.
Is he a Kringle?
No, he's a casement, but he's all.
Oh, Kyle.
Yeah.
Kyle Kringle sounds like he sounds like a proper doer, doesn't he? If anyone's going to make it, he's going to make it.
Yeah, no, it's always been a big, you know, family affair. We've always went away together racing motocross. Everything was good.
Yeah.
So 23, TT23, obviously newcomer. You know, you roughly know your way around because you live there.
Yeah.
Not that it's anything like the same at pace of a TT bike, of a race bike, but you know, you only really concentrated on one size bike, and was that for any reason in particular? I know you're riding most classes for 24. That's your plan.
Yeah. So initially, I spoke to the guys like Barty and Milky, and they just said, "You come. We want you to come, yeah, and we want you to come on your big bike, nothing else." So I was a little bit gutted by that. I was like, I really enjoy my 600 as much as I enjoy my big bike, but the big bike's the challenge, and that's what, if I had to choose, I'd choose it. So we came with that, and then the week before we had a race at a local track, and my big bike was just already in the midst of getting ready for Bray Hill, and I just enjoyed it so much on the 600. I rang them and said, look, is there any chance I can get a 600 riding? Obviously people had mishaps at the Northwest, so I knew people weren't turning up, and they turned around and said, we'll give you a ring back tomorrow, we will. And yeah, we'll left 6 days with a bike to rebuild again, get ready for Bray Hill. And you know, I was fortunate I'd had that, because I had all the problems with the big bike that still allowed me to get some track time in.
Yeah, you did have some problems. How many problems did you have? That it was a baptism of fire on every front. I think every time I walked past the garage, that bike was stripped down.
Oh man, so I have the mileage on the engine at the time was nowhere near due anything. So I've got a theory in my head: if it's not broke, don't fix it. You know, just let's crack on with this job. I've had no issues with that bike all the way up till TT. In hindsight, I parked it at the final round before TT at the local club event. I didn't ride it, which if I did, it might highlight these problems. But so the first day of practice, we set off, and because the bike had been in bits, 1 cent for the newcomers lap with Milky, and I got off the grandstand straight away. My quick shift wasn't working. I was like, oh, here we go. It's going to be a long lap. And then, as stupid as it is, rolling the throttle and using the clutch to go down gears again, it took me a lot to get used to it again. So we came in, we rectified that problem pretty quick, but we got straight out in the 600 then. And when we went back out, I'd done a lap, and it kept jumping out of gear, and I just thought, it's me not concentrating enough on the bike, too much going on. So I went back out, and I came out of quarter bridge, and it jumped out of gear again between third and fourth. And then I thought, give it one last go, and we came up Renkle, is it right? No, Ballahutchin up towards thing, and it jumped out again, so I just pulled straight off the track when I got to Ballagary, because last thing I wanted was a gearbox locking up around there.
Yeah.
So that lost me Monday straight away, and then Tuesday the thing was in bits. We couldn't get the shells when we stripped it. It needed shells. We got a gearbox, but it needed shells, but we couldn't get any on Ireland until Friday of practice week, so that would have been my TT over on a big bike.
Hold on, sorry, Ryan. What are shells? Are they them bits that go in your at the top end?
That's what you collect on the beach. A little walk.
That's not a stupid. It's not a stupid question.
No, it's a good question.
What
They're the bits that go around the flipping crankshaft, basically the bearings of the bike.
Right. Yeah. Well, I thought they were them little
Big end
fingers.
bearings.
Yeah.
Right.
Big end bearings. Yeah.
Sorry, Ryan.
Yeah.
So the shells. It needed new shells.
So it needed new shells, unfortunately. We couldn't get any, so I left in a hole, and spoke to a few people, borrowed some money, and went and bought a bike the next day, which I didn't get till 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon.
I'm sorry to interrupt you again. Sorry. And I know everyone's listening to this wanting to hear the story, but you can't. What do you mean? You just go and borrow some money and buy a bike? How does that happen at the TT?
Unfortunately, I've got good friends in good places, and it's 2 weeks of the year, and people are like, you're absolutely mad borrowing this money doing this. I was like, no, this 2 weeks doesn't stop for me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm here, and I'm a newcomer this year, and I'm doing this. So I did put myself in a hole, definitely did, but that was something to worry after the event, not during it. So
Was that on the island that you bought the bike then?
yeah,
Right.
So bought the bike, and then the first proper run we got on was Wednesday night, because Tuesday night we had the oil spill at the bottom of Vigaro, and my big bike wasn't ready for Tuesday, so I was thinking we'd get a couple laps of 600, I'd be okay, and I probably didn't deal at the best. Someone bottomed out through Vigaro, put oil everywhere, and straight away they cancelled the 600 session, so I didn't get out and put the sidecars out, and I just it just really annoyed me that I didn't get on track that night, because the previous years the newcomers could go on a 600 in any session, and they didn't allow me to go, so I was annoyed that I didn't get any laps on Tuesday, but you learn by that. And Wednesday was my first proper run, new bike, new everything, so I got up to, yourself, Steve, coming out of Sarah's cottage, is it, in Glen Helen, the change of direction before you come up the Crankavadi, and I've never been that physical on a bike changing direction. I could feel it pull on my muscle on my right arm, and I just blew up straight away, and by the time I got to the end of Sulby Straight, I couldn't feel the front brake leaving. At the time, the plan was to go straight for 2 laps just to get used to it, and I was like, I'm in danger zone now, but the fastest way to the bits here is on the track, and fortunately, with my number being so high as a newcomer, there's no one behind me on the track. I knew that, so I cruised around, I come in and said, oh, what's wrong with you? You just done 116, it's good enough on your first proper lap on a big bike, and I said, I can't hold on to the thing. And then
that was with arm pump all the way from Crankavadi Straight.
Yeah, they just had to.
That's a long way.
Yeah, it was a long way, and I was more worried about people behind me catching me than anything else. But
you're only flipping sort of 10, 11 miles into a 37-mile lap, It's
exactly that. But then I just thought, if you pull off and gone, around the long way, there's no way you're going to get back out today. So I just persevered with it, got around. Then I had a break, went back out, and the same happened again the second lap. But fortunately, after the Wednesday night of practice, it blew it out, and I didn't get it again for the rest of the fortnight. And
do you think that was down to you hanging on too tight, and a little nervous, or was it just a physical thing?
Yeah, I think definitely holding on too tight. Like, I've never ran a pump stop behind my seat to wedge myself in or anything like that, and obviously the speeds, I'm not used to it whatsoever, because I've done no other roads whatsoever, just done straight to the TT, and yeah, just the arm pump, it was a thing, but Thursday I didn't get it. I think we went out Thursday night, and I did struggle to set up with lack of time, and the bike was doing a lot of weaving. My first lap on Thursday night was 120 standing start, and then I went straight through for 120 on a flyer. And that's the night we spoke to Cam, everything was going well, and we went back out and done another 120 standing start out of the pits. So it was a good night. But throughout the where are we up to? So Friday, another good night of practice. We went a little bit faster again. then we came to Sunday. So we bought the bike Wednesday, we came to Sunday, and I was coming on the approach to Kurt Michael, it wheelied off the top, and I don't know how you were with this, but I struggled to look at my dash and go around because there's that many things going on. And I just seen a load of lights going nuts at me. I was like, what's going on here? So I seen my temperature just jump, and it wasn't just like by 1 or 2, it was jumping like 5, 10. I was like, we're up to 140 degrees here, this isn't good.
Wow.
Bloody hell.
So I pulled in at Douglas Road corner, and I looked down, and I could see a Jubilee clip that was snapped, hanging half out my belly band. It dumped a load of water, and only recently managed to get that engine fixed, but it warped the head, it warped the barrel, you know. It's
been hot.
done a lot of damage. And at the site, I just thought, like, where I stopped, I thought I'll let it cool down and go back on the back roads, and I kept firing it up, and it was dropping, but the bike would fire up no problem. And then I found the hose was fully off and it had no water, and so obviously I just parked it, didn't go anywhere. We got back and put water in it and tried to fire it up, and the engine was just real tight on the start and wouldn't fire again. So I just thought, we're in for more problems. And unfortunately, that night, this was Sunday, so we had to pull the engine to bits on that bike. And
Was that the big bike, sorry?
yeah,
so that was the one that you just bought?
Just bought. So this bike had a full engine refresh prior to me buying it, and pull it apart, and basically I wrecked that one as well. So it was 2 engines down, 2 chassis sat there. So fortunately, I've got a good mechanic, Andy, behind me, and he made a good engine out of the 2. We had it back in the chassis for the Superstock race on Tuesday, which that all went good. And then the Thursday, that's when I came out, and we done 126 on my last lap on the stock race, and still really, really struggle to handle the bike. And like we said about my previous background, motocross, I don't mind a bike jumping or moving and that, but I just could not get the thing to be planted to the ground. And I spoke to somebody after the race, probably shouldn't say his name because he's on his tyres, and he said, get yourself off them, get yourself on these, and it's going to make a big difference for the senior. So I went into the senior, a very tired boy, but you know, I came out and done a 125.8 standing start on some Dunlops, and the difference, I'd actually done the warm-up lap that morning as well, and as soon as I came out of Braddon Bridge on the run to Snugborough, the bike was just planted, and I can still feel it today. My arms relaxed on the handlebars, and I was just like, we can go today.
This is the way it should feel.
This is the way it should feel, but again, I've got to do the rest of the lap now, get back to the pits for the start.
What did you have? What tyres did you have on before that? Nobblers?
Yeah.
Off your motocross bikes?
Yeah. No, it was all good. Yeah, we was running the Metal, which is still a very, very good tyre, and like I'd not use anything but Metal and Pirelli on circuits. That's what I still use today, and I don't know what it was. Like I had good people behind me with good setups, and it just constantly had a weave to the handlebar, and sometimes Solby, before we got to the new patch this hard this year, it was getting too much where it's going to go wrong. Like it's starting from a weave to get further and further.
Fast there as well.
I just praying to see, as soon as I could see the change of colour on tarmac, I knew I was okay. So it's what we do, isn't it? But when we put these other tyres in, there's no looking back now. We've got a good base for this year.
It was planted, it was solid, you didn't get the weave?
Didn't get it whatsoever, and the other tyres were slightly spinning out of corner, so then when it was spinning, it was causing the shock to pump, and I couldn't get the power down. So
yeah,
I don't think it's the tyres, or maybe it's my setup. You know, the Metal are a very good tyre, but for me, it didn't work, and I needed to try something else, and I wanted to try something that would make or break this year coming.
For a newcomer, you had quite a task involved. You know, obviously you know your way around because you live there on the Isle of Man. So probably, you know, that's a trump card as opposed to another newcomer. But there was so many negatives going on with engine problems and bike problems and so on. It does distract you. It really does, you know. So it's a lot to keep you settled and to keep you calm when you finally get out on the course and trying to get a decent result and with a massive learning curve. It is.
I remember like the Sunday when it went wrong on the big bike again. I remember just coming back to my lawn and just put my hands in my head because I just had another chassis with no engine, and I was like, what am I going to do? I just borrowed a load of money and I'm in another hole now, and it was hard. It was hard, and I took that hard, but all you can do is dust yourself off, and tomorrow's a new day, and I hope it comes right. It's
hard enough for a factory team or a team that has mechanics that are getting paid enough money to go and do it and stay up, and you can, or the rider can remove themselves away from it. But you're involved in it, aren't you? You're helping the mechanics. You're part of that team, really, doing that.
Maybe that's the problem.
The work.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe stay away from the Spanish line.
Luckily, I did. I had good support, so I hired a lad in, who's a good friend of mine, Dan, and he was very good at prepping my bikes and having everything ready. And we we own AGR Motorsport as well. So Andy, who works for us, he builds engines. He's done many of engines. He's got many of Manx Grand Prix wins behind him. Stuff. He knows what he's doing. So I was lucky to have. So basically, we had Andy in the camp to look after Jamie, and I hired somebody in to look after my stuff. But at the time I hired him, there's only going to be one bike, not the Super Sport as well. And fortunately for me, they both mucked in and it took the stress off me.
Yeah.
There's so much going on that I didn't want to be at the paddock. I just wanted to be away from the place and just keep myself to myself. And I was turning up late to the paddock every day just to avoid everything.
Yeah.
No, I turned up and the boys had it done for me. I had a pretty stress-free in that sense, really.
Yeah, like Steve said, it's hard enough going there as a newcomer to concentrate on learning the track. The most important or the hardest part of a newcomer is learning the track. But you've also got in the back of your mind, what's going to go wrong with this bike now? I've had this trouble, Is this all right? Are we going to get through this lap? Are my arms going to start pumping up? Like, it's... I don't think... What's the right turn of phrase, or what am I trying to say? You couldn't have made it any harder for yourself if you tried, could you?
But again, it is what it is, isn't it? We can't change these things. These things happen, and they set the challenges. But it's all the buts and maybes. If I got a clear practice week, I don't know where I could have ended up. And we've been, like we said, the 5th fastest, and everyone in front and behind me, they all rode for proper teams, and I could back, and I don't know where it could have. Well, not have went any better. I might have went slower, but
that's it. It bodes well to know that you got through all that in TT 2023. Going into 24, if you have half the problems you had this time, you'll have a much clearer head. You've got a year under your belt. Like, what's potentially possible from there?
I think, first of all...
go on.
Well, no. With quite a negative year, you've decided to go back, which is fabulous, and positive. You must have a positive mental attitude.
Yeah.
But not just that, you went to the Manx and rode a classic Superbike as well.
I did, yeah. That, again, was going well, and Ian and the boys at Mistral put a great package together for me, and unfortunately we had this most stupidest thing happen on the last lap of the race. The exhaust bracket snapped, and I actually knew it snapped by Balcrane. My heel rests on the exhaust, and as I tipped into Balcrane, my heel dropped. I was like, oh, that's not good. I looked down, I was like, yeah, it's definitely snapped. But I tried to be smart about it, and where the marshals weren't, I was looking to make sure it was still safe, because obviously the last thing I wanted was falling off. And I made it. I remember going down Bagara and the marshals stood in the pavement staring at me. I was like, oh, don't stand back in, will you? And where was it? I got to the end of Sulby and I could see they were proper going for me. I was like, oh, I'm not going to do this. And then got into Parliament Square and there was about 4 or 5 of them dotted up the road going nuts. I was like, oh.
Yeah.
And I remember getting off and Trevor Marsh was like, you can't go any further. I was like, I've got from Balcrane, I'm okay. He's like, no chance. So I had to ride the back road backwards, and then to top that one off, I got to Onken and the bike started stuttering like it was running out of fuel, but they run a total loss system. So I could see the voltage on my dash slightly going down and down. Yeah. I didn't even make it back to the grandstand. I had to push it the rest of the way. I was like, oh, what a day. But no, I think we were running 7th or 8th at the time. I think we were straight into 7th at Glen Ellen lap on, and that was going well. I was enjoying it, yeah.
What's it like riding one of those old bikes? Because am I right in thinking that bike is probably the same age as you, right?
I think it is the exact same, yeah. So different. It's definitely different. I was warned before getting on them, just watch the gearboxes because they aren't very good on them. And even in the races videos of me coming into Douglas Road corner lap on, and it's just in a false neutral, but it won't select the gear, it'll just grind gears, and I'm clutching, just please don't lock. But and then I had it going lap 1 into the Craig, it done the exact same, but the mechanics had to try and blip the throttle as you're braking to do that, and I was like, blip, brake, I was like, there's a lot going on. So I remember coming down into the Craig lap 1, I blipped it, but as I blipped it, I gripped the brake and a stop it. I was like, oh, not a T yet. It did take a bit of riding, it did, but, it was...
Does it make it easier? Because they're still fast bikes, but not as fast as, obviously, a modern superbike.
Yeah, so...
Do you approaching things a little bit slower and make that easier to... Because you're still learning the course at race pace.
I think it's definitely helped me because it's very similar speed to 600, as you say, and we ended up doing 120 and a half or something on the 600 this year, and I'd done no revision on that because I didn't think I was riding one. And places like Gorsley, I wasn't even when I finished TT on a 600, I was not flat out through there, and I know you should be, but I was just biding my time with it. And on that Mistral bike, before the Manx had ended, I was flat through there, not rolling. So that just brought my confidence up for riding a 600 this year more than anything.
All right, Ryan, we'll pause the conversation just there. There's still plenty to talk about, especially Ryan's TT in 2024, as well as his love for motocross.
You're not sniffing a return, are you, onto Nobblies and having a dabble at that as well?
Yes.
I done everything I could last year to get an entry, but they were in between 2 different
Really?
rounds, so they didn't pick me up till too late. So I'd love a go. I would. Motocross my first love, and it still is. I love it. I always go back to it all the time.
Now, if you want to catch part 2 of this podcast, it will be available right here on TT Plus. And don't forget, as ever, iomttracers.com is the place to be for all the latest news and features from the world of the TT. Until then, see you later, Steve.
Ta-da.